Hey everybody, this is the Carita shipmate from Tumblr. I know I said I was going to post my reaction video to Once Upon a Time Season 3 Episode 1 sometime on Monday, and I actually kind of made a portion of that video before, but I never got the chance to finish it. I've been too busy this whole week. So, yeah, this is coming a couple days late, but I wanted to get this done before Sunday when Episode 2 airs. So, without further ado, this is my video log for Once Upon a Time Season 3 pre-premiere, Season 3 Episode 1, Heart of the Truest Believer. Now, before I get into this, I'm going to assume that since it is Friday morning, that means, and by the way, I apologize for the quality of this. Like I said, my laptop has audio issues in the camera, so I'm having to do this on my iPhone. Anyway, I'm assuming since it is Friday morning, that means everyone that is on either one on the West Coast or two in a different country has had the opportunity to watch this episode. So I will still put in my post, spoilers here, even though I don't think it's necessary at this point, because all of you guys been talking about episode 2 anyway, but just to avoid any backlash or anybody's attitudes, I'll put it in there, because I don't want to make anybody angry. Now, without further ado, let's on to the reaction. I'm not going to fully summarize the episode. I don't think I need to. Everyone's already seen it, so I don't have to tell you exactly what happens scene by scene, but we will hit the finer points. Okay, first of all, the opening scene. Straight off the bat, I have got to give major props to Jen. Her acting chops in this scene, unbelievable. As a mother myself, I cannot even imagine what it must be like to have to sit there in a place you don't want to be, around people who are virtual strangers to you, with your legs shackled to a hospital bed, and a guard standing in the doorway watching you as you give birth to your son, a child that you know you cannot keep. If ever there was a moment in her life where she was at her lowest and most broken, it was that moment. And I have seen some posts on Tumblr, and I'm going to address this straight up right here and right now. I'm not even going to talk about the fact that the baby was born at 8:15, because obviously that was another one of Adam and Eddie's little plot devices. Great, fine, whatever. That's not the important thing here. Any fucking body that says that was a romantic scene, you're smoking crack. Now, I know there's quite a few of you on the CS boards that don't have kids, so it's hard for you to have the perspective, but just from a moral standpoint alone, that was not a romantic scene in any sense of the word. That was a broken woman who was at the lowest point of her life. She felt so worthless that and so small that she could not even look at her own child, because she knew that if she did, she would never be able to walk away, and it would break her even more than she could possibly already be broken, and at that point she was already shattered. She didn't hold him, she didn't look at him, she turned her face away from the doctor, and she didn't even acknowledge that baby's presence. She couldn't do it, because she knew in her heart that she was no kind of mother, considering she was still in prison. That was not a romantic scene for Swan Thief or for any ship, period. That was heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, and anybody that didn't shed at least a minimum of tears is either is heartless or has no soul. Which segueing into the whole Neil thing, Neil no longer has any excuse or any weight with me whatsoever. I was willing to give him a little sympathy on the whole balefire, you know, how his life has been pretty much shit because of what happened with his father and being abandoned by his mother and the hook and everything. I was trying to be a little sympathetic to the balefire part of him. And I was even trying to look for the smidgens of good left in the Neil part of him, but after that opening scene, you know, done. Done. There's not one word that could come out of Neil's mouth that could possibly support the two of them getting back together in any way or justify what it was that he did to her. I don't care the fact that he didn't know that she was pregnant. Doesn't matter. The fact is, he did not choose her, he did not fight for her, and he abandoned her. Period. End of statement. Alright, so, moving on. Opening scenes, you got Hook and company going through the portal into Neverland, and then on the island you got Tamara, Greg, and Henry coming through their portal. I gotta say, it was extremely satisfying to see Tamara and Greg meet their swift end, because yes, they served a plot point, and that plot point got finished, but I was honestly, I was at a point where I was like, Greg, how much more bullshit are you going to believe? The walkie-talkie that you're carrying has sand in it. Even Tamara at this point is going, dude, what the fuck? If even she is starting to ask questions. And she was even more hardcore than him, because, you know, she's a murderer. Or an attempted murderer. No, actually she is, because she killed August. So yeah, she's called Harlan's bitch. If she is starting to ask questions, you got problems. Loved Henry and his sass. The fact that even after everything that he's been through and being kidnapped and taken to this other world, this other realm, that he still has enough gumption in him to sass the shit out of both of them and make them look like idiots. Not that takes a lot of work. Gotta give him props on that one. And Jared, awesome acting, dude. Loved it. Let's see. I know everybody's been talking about a lot of the CS stuff in this episode, and I gotta say, holy shit. The amount of stuff that we got in just one episode alone, I don't even know what that means the next 21. But knowing Adam and Eddie, I do not at all expect it to be a smooth ride. We're going to have some bumpy seas ahead. You know that with them there's always ups and downs, and none of us who've been holding fast to Captain Swan have ever believed that the ship was going to be without its issues and without its turbulence. It's like Snow and Charming have always said, true love, if true love was that easy, everyone would just automatically have it. It's something, it's not, it's something you have to fight for. And I love in that Neverland special how Eddie was saying that, you know, true love starts with someone hitting you in the face with a rock. Yeah, enough said. It might have been a compass instead of a rock, but same difference. Well, anyway, Regina and Hook have their conversation about whether or not villains can have happy endings, and I kind of find that I found her tone funny, because she was acting like she didn't understand what Greg meant by calling her a villain. I'm like, Regina, you're a fairy tale character. Surely by now you've seen the Disney version of yourself. At least I hope you have. Unless you haven't. Well, anyway. She's got to have some concept of villains and heroes and blah blah. She's from a freaking fairy tale realm, for God's sake. But she still, that just tells me right there that she still is working under this misguided notion that she is not a villain. That she's still somehow a good and decent person. And yes, I know that deep inside of her, that Regina that Snow remembers when she was a child is in there somewhere. But until she can control her desperate need for magic and her overall bitchiness and put her need for revenge or her need to ruin Snow's life aside, I would like to believe that she can redeem herself. I think she would like to for Henry, but the thing is, she shouldn't do it not solely for Henry's sake. She should be doing this for herself. This is the difference between her and Rumple and Hook. Rumple and Regina need another person to give them the impetus to change. Belle is Rumple's reason for being better. The minute, like the very second that she is not in his life, he goes downhill. Quick. And you saw that as soon as they got there, within minutes of them being there, he had already done a wardrobe change, and he was like, dark one half. And he went, bye bitches, I'm outie. And he scuttled off. Because, yeah, it's like they didn't read the fine print when they made this deal with him. He said he would help him get there. He never said that he would help them find him. So he goes to Neverland on his own to go look. Apparently, in this Sunday's episode, we're going to find out what that little doll meant. And I'm torn between either one, it being something that belonged to Bay, or two, it being something that belonged to him when he was a child. Some people have theorized that there's a possibility that because he was an abandoned child, that his father took off, and he was raised by spinsters, it's a good possibility that he may himself have spent some time there as a child. And that might have been one of his toys. It's entirely possible. I mean, there's very few things in this world that can reduce Rumpelstiltskin to tears within a matter of seconds. Him lambasting Emma the way that he did, I loved the reaction from Hook. You could tell that Killian was using every ounce of self-control in his body not to just throttle Rumple. Because he was pretty much bashing her up, down, and sideways. Oh, you're never going to find him because you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in your magic or your family or anybody else. Right now you're just looking for evidence, but you're not trying to use your magic or any of your other skills, blah, blah, blah. He basically believes that they're doomed to fail. And he was making her feel like shit, saying that she doesn't have the ability to find her own son. And that kind of leads into the dust-up she has with her parents. Some fans are like, why would she treat them like that? I mean, they didn't want to abandon her, and, they're trying to be as decent parents as they can. But see, you have to understand. That's a major theme, actually, that's running through Season 3, is Emma trying to figure out, it's one thing for her to accept that Charming and Snow are her parents and call them mom and dad. It's another thing to see them as her parents. To she accepts them in title as her parents, but like accepting their guidance and treating them like they're her parents, it's not something I think that she's at the point of being ready to do yet. Because one, they're the same age as she is, and two, they have the same amount of life experience. So they can't treat her like a child because she's not a child, And because of everything that she's been through and having to fight her entire life and being abandoned and alone and all these things and being broken, she doesn't understand how they can be the way that they are, how they can be so infuriatingly optimistic. Anybody that's seen this the freaking cartoon and read the story, I mean, they're you know, supposed to be the epitome of true love perfection, but I think Snow made a good point when she said the minute that I start to not believe, or the minute I start to lose hope, is the minute that, you know, my whole life starts to go downhill. So she clings on to that hope and that optimism, because otherwise she wouldn't have much of anything else. And they try to explain to her that it's who they are as people, to be optimistic and to always have hope, and, you know, their family motto, I will always find you. They try to give her comfort and tell her that it's going to be okay, we're going to find Henry, what happened to Neil wasn't your fault. But you can tell, especially after what Rumpel said to her, that she feels that guilt is weighing on her for what happened to Neil, even though it wasn't his fault. If anything, what happened to Neil was Neil's own fucking fault for not believing Emma at first. If he had believed her at the outset and not blown her off the way that he did, and not waited until he had a gun in his fucking face to realize that Tamara was crazy, then he might not have gotten shot. So in a roundabout way, that the only person that Neil can blame for Neil is Neil. And what happened to Henry is definitely not her fault. Although I can see how she would believe it, because she thinks that this is why she kind of said, you know, no, I blame you for being optimistic and always wanting to take the hard road and blah, blah, blah. Because she knows that if they had let Regina die to stop the trigger, that they never would have been down in the caves in the first place, and Tamara and Greg never would have gotten their hands on Henry. But Snow was, you know, desperate not to let somebody else die. She didn't want to build a new foundation on Regina's blood, and as a result they were down there in the caves because they were going to throw the trigger into the portal, and that's what allowed Tamara and Greg the opportunity to take Henry. So she kind of, some part of her blames Snow, and yet some part of her blames herself for not being strong enough to overrule her mother's choices. But the overriding point there is that what they were doing, as much as they were trying to give her comfort, it wasn't what she needed. Now, during the Hook and Regina conversation, she's like, do you really believe that there's a happy ending for us? And Hook makes a very good point when he says, well, I hope so, or else our entire lives have been a complete waste. And yes, it is true, as you guys have said. As soon as he says that, the camera pans over and his gaze lands right on Emma. That was not done out of nowhere. None of the camera shots on this show are coincidental. Everything is deliberate. Of course he would look at her, of course, because he sees her as his future. Adam and Eddie have even said that point blank, that he's at this point is making no bones about his feelings towards her, and that he sees a future with her. He's trying to cling on to this hope that he can be a part of something bigger than himself, so that he can earn the right to be with her. She gave him that hope, and he doesn't want to fuck it up, because he knows now that this 300-year quest for revenge has gotten him absolutely nowhere. I mean, think about it. When Rumpelstiltskin was lambasting her, he could have throttled his ass. And trust me, the man wanted to, but he didn't. He let him go. I mean, are you kidding? After 300 years of doing nothing but trying to kill him, and he just lets him go? Yes. He, at that point, he looks at Emma's plight as being infinitely more important than revenge. Alright, moving on to the toast and the giving of the sword. I mean, we've all seen this scene about a million times, and we've debunked every single part of it. The only thing I'm going to say about it is, one, this just says even more about the depth of the relationship between Killian and Emma, in that once he walked in there, yes, he made a few quips because that's in his nature, but as soon as he saw that she wasn't having it, that wasn't what she needed at that moment, he totally downshifted, and he was completely, the innuendos went out the door, and he was completely honest with her. And he just kind of, hey, don't let Rumpelstiltskin get you down, but he wasn't, words were not really necessary at that point. He knew that she was grieving, but he also knew that she didn't want platitudes. She didn't want to be talked to. So he gave her Neil's sword, and they had that toast to him. At that point, that easy, silence was kind of all that they needed. And I really, really, really wish that mermaid hadn't interrupted that scene, because Lord knows what else they could have discussed. But they had this easy companionship, and words weren't really necessary for them to get their point across, and it was very intimate. Not very many words were spoken, but at the same time it was very intimate, and that's just kind of a testament to the direction that their relationship is going. Excellent scene. Props to Colin and Jen. Very well acted with not so very many words. I also got to give props to Jen for the mermaid scene. I have to give props to all of them, because that could not have been an easy scene to have shot, in the amount of times that they had to shoot it being soaked to the skin and everything. But Rumpelstiltskin did say that Neverland is a land of belief and imagination and magic, and they kind of let it get to them real quick. Fortunately for them, Emma, her mind is focused completely on Henry, so she wasn't having none of it. And the rest of them are so used to seeing magic and things like that dealing with a mermaid is not something that is unusual, but for her, she still hasn't wrapped her head around the whole thing. So she's not as easily swayed by the magic and the incredibleness of all this stuff, because it's still so new to her. So she doesn't, completely fall for the mermaid's trickery. I think if they had just gotten the mermaid off the damn boat, it would have been so much easier. Oh, and Regina? What the fuck? I get that you're desperate to find Henry, but what the fuck? First of all, your sass with Snow, that was awesome. That was awesome. That I busted out laughing with that. Unicorn kisses and rainbow stickers, yeah. The writers, y'all are great. Adam and Eddie did say that a lot of deep-seated emotional grudges and a lot of stuff that people have kept hidden was going to come out. And that first scene was just the first taste. It's not going to end there. There's a lot of animosity between Regina and Snow. There's some animosity between Charming and Hook, although from what we've heard of the spoilers for Lost Girl, that might not last too long, because I think somebody's going to get hurt, and more than likely it's probably Charming, but Hook is going to save his life, so I think that's going to kind of change Charming's opinion of Hook, which is a good thing. If he's got Hook's approval and Snow's approval, then he's on the right path. All he needs to do is scale those Emma walls and he'd be in. I know it was kind of crazy for her to jump off the ship, but at that point I think she was desperate. I mean, they were at each other's throats. It looked like Regina was about to toss Snow off the ship, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why she didn't just use her magic. But I guess they were so caught up in the moment, and Charming looked like he was about to skin Hook with his own hook. So, yeah, it was getting pretty nasty. And yes, it was funny that Hook called Snow and Regina slags. I mean, it's a nasty word to use, and I don't think that under normal circumstances Killian would have used that kind of language, because, let's not forget, he is a gentleman. He would not say something like that, especially about a royal. But I don't think he was thinking in his right mind at that moment. Whatever was going on with that spell that was obviously tied to their emotions, it was screwing with their minds. So Emma did the only thing she thought she could do. She provided a distraction. And oh yes, that scene when they pulled her in. Woo! Anybody on this planet that thinks there is nothing between Hook and Emma after that scene is either blind or in denial. It was more than obvious from the look on his face. He was terrified that he was going to lose her. It was like the shades of his life were passing before his eyes, and he was remembering losing Mila in that same spot. You could see the minute that she regained consciousness, his eyes closed and his head went back and he sighed. He was like, thank God. He didn't speak, but you could just see it in his face. When his face dropped and he just... I think, like y'all had said, I think he stopped breathing until she breathed. And that was when he realized how much she meant to him. And I think that is why he's been so much more freer with his quips and his words ever since. I don't think he wants to keep it a secret anymore. So on Neverland, we've got Henry and Tamara and Greg, and eventually Felix and the Lost Boys find them, and they try to outrun them, but it doesn't work. And this is when even Greg starts to go, oh shit, we're fucked. I messed up. That's when it's revealed to them that there is no home office, that Pan had totally used them in order to get Henry there. And they tried to escape, and when they did, the shadow came and ripped Greg's soul from his shadow from his body, and Tamara got shot in the back with an arrow. But not before yelling to Henry to run, which he did. And in the course of doing that, he met up with another Lost Boy, whom, as we all know, turned out to be Pan in disguise. I guess what Pan was doing was testing him to see if his heart was the one he was looking for, and when Henry was able to use the pixie dust, because he had that belief, and Pan knew that it was true, that Henry was definitely the one. I don't know if that means that he wants to physically rip Henry's heart out of his body, or if he believes that I have a little theory of my own. You can discuss this if you want. He says he needs the heart of the truest believer. Why would he need this? As a believer, Henry was able to activate certain forms of magic that obviously Pan could not activate. If Pan wanted to use the motherfucking pixie dust, Pan would have used the motherfucking pixie dust. But he didn't. I'm still, holding on with the last tiny little shreds of the Kill a Pan theory that the shadow is actually Killian's, and that Killian was Pan at one time. He was the original Pan, and that this little shit who is Pan was the person he chose to take his place. But this kid doesn't have enough of a belief in magic in order for the shadow and him to coexist together, in order for them to come together. And maybe that's why he needs Henry's heart. Because Henry's heart has that belief that will allow, that if he puts that heart in his body, that will allow him to merge with the shadow. It makes sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but you know, because that's like Rumpel had said at one point, that Neverland is about belief, because Neverland isn't just a place where there is magic. Neverland is magic. It's practically the birthplace of magic. But if you refuse to believe in magic anymore, then it's not going to do anything for you. So Henry runs off with this lost boy who eventually turns out to be Pan, but he doesn't let him know who he really is till the very end of the episode. We don't know what's going to happen with Henry and Pan. We do know that the Lost Boys have him at this point. And then, of course, you have another really good scene when they bring the Jolly Roger into port, and they all come on land, and they're trying to figure out who's going to lead and what they're going to do. And Emma's like, look, I am in charge here. And she gives this whole heartfelt speech, and that's when Hook does his, actually I quite fancy you, from time to time when you're not yelling at me line. Yes, it was quippy, but at the same time, he was being honest. It's not like he was lying. And the fact that she, not one, had no retort whatsoever. She didn't even give him an eye roll. Normally, you could at least get an eye roll. Not even that. I don't know if it was because she's too distracted by, needing to find Henry, or if after the conversation that they had below decks, I think I'm starting to feel, I'm not sure if you guys feel this, but I feel like a dynamic between them has shifted. Her reactions to him are not the same as they used to be. It used to be when he would do his little quips and things, she'd be like, whatever, shut the fuck up. I really don't care. Now, it's kind of, she still lets it roll, but she doesn't find it as annoying anymore. She kind of accepts that that's who he is. And the fact that she did not lump him with the villains, that she called him out as pirate. I don't think she understands how much that meant to him to not be put in that category as villain. Because he's really not. And I think that made him want to fight for her even more. You could see the look on his face. He was so proud of her. He was so, he had so much pride that she was taking charge, and that she has all this courage and strength, and I think that's going to make him want to follow her wherever she goes, And yeah, Charming and Snow and Regina can fight about it all they want, but she's right. Everyone has their own abilities and gifts to bring to this pot. Hers is the fact that she's a mother, and of everybody there, her priorities will never shift. She's the one who knows exactly what she wants, and that's to find Henry. Now, for any of you that have been saying Hook doesn't know that she has magic, wrong. Yes, he does. He's never said anything about it, but she blanket admitted it in that conversation on the beach. She said, we have to have belief not in my magic, but in our abilities, in who we truly are. So she admitted straight up that she had magic, and Hook said nothing. Which lends me to believe that I think he already had it in his mind that she probably did. Yes, he didn't see her, what happened with her and Cora and her not getting her heart ripped out, but anybody that doesn't think that she knows, or that he knows, he knows. He might not have asked her about it because, place and time, but I'm sure that he will eventually. So they don't exactly agree quite yet, but I mean, on every aspect of this group dynamic, but they do agree that she's in charge because she put herself there. Boom. And she's not moving. But obviously next week they're going to depend a lot on Hook's knowledge of Neverland, which will quickly be proven to be fallible, considering he hasn't been there in quite some time. Okay, last but not least, the Enchanted Forest scenes. I'm going to straight up put this right here, right now. Right here, right now. I find it ironic that everyone is now jumping on the Moonfire train. Because yes, it's true that Adam and Eddie said that that was not happening, or at least not right now, or not in the foreseeable future, since Jamie Chung is only a guest star. She doesn't have a permanent role, although I hope that she does. I would very much like to see her be on this show permanently. I love her character, and I think she needs to stay. I find it ironic because I was shipping them like 6 months ago, before they even met. Hell, I was shipping them before Emma even figured out who Neil really was. Mostly because I felt like they had a lot in common. They understand what it's like to be a third wheel. To love someone who doesn't love you back. Mulan is still kind of pining after Philip, even though she knows she can't have him because Aurora is his true love, and Philip is completely oblivious to the feelings that that Mulan has for him. But I think that Mulan's at a point in her life where she realizes that she needs to make a choice. That she needs to either walk away, move on with her life, or else she's going to be stuck in this rut forever, and it's not good for her because she's not doing anything. Aurora, she did for Philip what he asked of her. She protected his love. Aurora's safe. They're together. They can rebuild their kingdom. They're going to be fine. They don't really need her anymore. But yet she's still sticking around because of her feelings for Philip. You guys, I know you noticed this. But her reactions with Neil and the way that she was with Neil, oh my freaking God. Oh my God. She expressed more emotions in her few scenes that she had with Neil than I've ever seen her express with anybody. Even Aurora. Fuck, even Philip. She actually kind of, her eyes lit up and she smiled when Neil talked to her. He actually makes her laugh. He makes her curious. She wouldn't have chosen to go with him and if she didn't want to. And she called him out on his shit by saying that, you know, his love for Emma wasn't stronger than his fear of rejection or fear of his father. So they have a lot in common, and they both kind of seems like they have an understanding of each other that just kind of works. I still find it funny that everyone is totally into this ship now, and I was calling this shit 6 months ago. I just knew. I saw it, I just knew that they would, they worked. They worked. They're perfect together. And I sincerely hope that Jamie Chung does become a permanent member of the cast so they can bring her over to Storybrooke, you know, when the Neverland story's done. I want to see her there permanently. I want Neil to be happy with his son and with his father and have a relationship that is good and not toxic. Because anything that's between Emma and Neil will wind up being only wind up being toxic. Neil, you know, as much as he says that he loves her, I still think he loves the idea of her because it was only giving them a part of the story. Yes, he was saying that he broke her heart and he abandoned her, but he didn't give the whole story. I think he's still trying to justify his actions, and that shit doesn't work. You can't say that you're in love with her. You haven't seen her in 11 years. You were just engaged to somebody else who put a gun to your head. And now, 2 seconds later, just because she tells you she loves you as you're about to fall down a portal because she thinks you're dying, you're automatically jumping ship to be with her. I think he needs to put the relationships aside and just focus on himself. I don't know what's going to happen with him delving into magic. I don't think Neil's going to delve too far into it. I don't think he would. I would like to think he would not do something that's stupid, considering everything he's seen as has happened to his father and his own life because of magic. But at the same time, he might just be that desperate that he's willing to do whatever it is that he has to do. Robin Hood, I'm definitely happy. Tom Ellis was a decent Robin Hood, but I like this Sean guy better. Much better. He reminds me of Jonas Armstrong, who played, any of you guys have seen the BBC Robin Hood from 2006? And I know you have, because all of you guys keep revlogging Richard Armitage, so I know you guys have seen it. He reminds me of that version of Robin Hood. Got that serious, but at the same time kind of cheeky. Whereas the way Tom Ellis played him was a very one-dimensional wooden character. Sean gives him a lot more dimensions, more emotion. Overall, I like the way that he played it better, and I'd be very interested to see where his storyline goes. I don't know what exactly they're going to do. I know that the two of them are supposed to be helping Neil find his way to Neverland. Considering that I think they're filming episode 8 right now. Obviously, Neil meets up with everybody else in Neverland at some point, because he was already on the Neverland set. So I'm guessing maybe 6 or 7-ish, somewhere. We'll see how that goes. Because if there's going to be some kind of choice between Hook and Neil, something has to happen. Whoops. Sorry, my phone fell. Something has to happen within these first 6 episodes to, sorry. Something has to happen within these first 6 or 7 episodes before Neil gets there to make it very apparent that a choice between Hook and Neil needs to be made. So I can only see stuff between Hook and Emma increasing. I don't think it's going to get sexual yet, because I know that her priority right now is Henry and nothing else. But from what we've heard, with episode 2, oh my god, I can't wait for that scene where she tells him the Disney version of Hook. The look on his face. Oh my god, I need to see that. I need Sunday to be here just so I can see that. The reaction of him learning about Codfish Hook. I will laugh my ass off. Like, literally, I will laugh my fucking ass off. But I know there's going to be increases in, like, how they react to each other. I already know that the dynamic between them has shifted. It's definitely not the same as it was. And she is going to become more accepting of his innuendos, and actually I think he might even tune the innuendos down and actually be a little more sincere than cheeky. I think she's going to be more accepting of it, and actually she might even kind of... I'm fully expecting more conversations, more late night talks, and intimate moments. And maybe before Neil gets there, something might happen. Maybe a stolen kiss. Something's got to happen. curious. Something's got to happen. To put that question in her mind, you know? When Neil does show up and meets back up with them, it's going to be, the tension is going to be like, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So that is my vidlog for Season 3, Episode 1. As you can see, from what I've said, yes, I am a CSer. I mentioned it, but I didn't lambast any of the characters. What I said about Neil was a personal opinion, but I didn't get all anti-Neil or he's an asshole, blah, blah, blah. I just said, you know, I gave honest opinions on his dialogue and his actions and what I believe that means for him as a character. That's it. I'm trying to keep this as, you know, shipper war neutral as possible. I don't want hate, okay? I don't want to be lambasted. Whatever I do put in these logs, like I said, I'm going to voice opinions based on what I see. My statements are based on what I see, nothing else. I'm not going to use this as a sounding board to bash characters. If somebody does something wrong, something that I view as wrong, yeah, I'm going to say something about it, but I'm not going to use this as a sounding board for hate. That's not what this is about. Because first and foremost, beyond being a Captain Swanner, I am a oncer. First and foremost. I know that, you know, as CSers, we've had our share of issues with the once fandom as a whole. But still, no matter what, in our hearts, we will always be once fans. Period. I will probably upload this in a couple of hours. And I guess that's it for me. And I will see you guys Sunday for episode 2, Lost Girl. It's going to be pretty awesome. See how Emma reacts to meeting Peter Pan for the first time. And more CSE goodness. Oh, I want that. I want that hook codfish scene so bad. I can taste it. I can taste it. Alright, so until Sunday, I will see you guys then, and as I said before, I will do another video probably Monday evening to give West Coasters and people from other countries time to watch and catch up. So, until next time, my fellow beings, adios amigos.